Howdy folks, welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory and today is Thursday, October the 25th, 2018. And I have the very distinct honor and great pleasure of welcoming back somebody that I really like to talk to because he has his finger on the pulse of a great many things. And we're going to get into his top 5 investments right away. And I'm talking about Mr. Lior Gantz, and he is the founder of Wealth Research Group, and you can find all of his great reports over at wealthresearchgroup.com, where you need to subscribe to his free newsletter. And he is an entrepreneur, he is an investor, like I said, and I love his perspective, and I know you guys do as well. Lior, welcome back to the Daily Coin.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you're here, and like I said, I'm going to put you on the spot. I know that every couple of months you've started doing something, a new offering with your free newsletter, and you're actually being very transparent about your investments and what you're doing, and you're spelling out everything to the folks of what your investments are, so that they can follow along with what you're doing. And you're being gracious enough to give us an insight to the newsletter, even though it's free. You guys need to go subscribe to it. But he's going to give us an insight on his top 5 investments, where he's at right now. Lior, table is yours.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So definitely with the newsletter, we started in June at the third Thursday of every even month. So June, August, October, which we just did, December, February, and April. I basically take the last 60 days worth of investments that I did with my Dynasty portfolio, and I encapsulate it and publish one letter with what's going on current holdings, if I'm selling anything, if I bought anything. And I think in light of what's going on right now, it's important to understand where we are in the context of everything. But I can definitely tell you that right now, the top 5 stocks that I'm watching, one of them is a very sophisticated way of playing the growth of the Asian middle class. As you know, this is going to be the Asian century. By 2025, Rory, the nominal GDP of China is going to eclipse that of the U.S. They're going to have the largest economy in the world.
Yes.
By 2035, they're going to have the biggest military budget. So big changes are coming. This doesn't mean that the U.S. is going to wither away and die. And I know that there are many people that think that the United States is in a permanent decline. It's definitely not. It's going through a very fundamental identity crisis, and but it's going to be it's going to be stronger and rebuilt from where it's at right now. The United States has been through so much and has not only survived but thrived through it all.
Yes.
And this is no different. But it is a very testing time for the United States, for the United States economy. And I think we can go into that, to the wealth gap, to the harmful effects of low interest rates and what if they've done for nearly a decade, and also kind of where the jobs market is, and this demographic change between millennials and baby boomers. But to answer your question first, I think Starbucks is a phenomenal opportunity at this point. They've been the stock has been trading in a range for years, and so if you know. I know you know a technical analysis. When stocks trade in a range, they break out of that range, either break out to the upside or to the downside. Now with Starbucks, they're going to have an amazing expansion plan in China that is going to basically replicate the success that they've had in the U.S. over there. Now, since going public in 1992, this stock is up 20,000%.
Wow,
that's insane.
That is insane.
This is becoming a very good opportunity at this prices, so about $56 per share, and I love it at this point. I think it's a very good sophisticated, simple way to play the Asian expansion and the Asian boom, basically, with a very steady American company that I can understand easily. And it doesn't take a genius to understand coffee, right? So
Right.
this is one thing that I love. With my own investments, I love companies that I can understand in 30 seconds or less, if I need be. Right? I
Yep.
don't love these gadgets or anything that I can't figure out. So and this is very unusual for me. I usually don't go to the restaurant business or to retail, but Starbucks is the exception. I've done about 2 years worth of research on this company, their culture, how they train employees. It's a very unique company, and they have traded in range because their legendary CEO has resigned, and this has been known for a while. So, in the same way as Steve Jobs' unfortunate death affected Apple for a few days, and then the company is obviously stronger than even its legendary CEO, and you can see what happens from that point and onwards, right?
Right.
To Apple, it's sort of what will happen with Starbucks as well. CEO is important, but the company's culture is much stronger than that, and I think that's one stock that is for a long-term investor. That is a great company to own, in my opinion. AT&T is a absolute bargain at this point. As you know, the most expensive expensive meaning not expensive in terms of money, but expensive in terms of how broad it is. The broadest infrastructure program in history is underway in the United States. People don't understand this, but the Internet of Things, the 5G, is the most incredible transformation in terms of how efficient things will be going forward. So the 5G, the fifth generation in terms of communications, this is something that's being laid out in the next few years. AT&T has its foothold in the core of this, and I think investors, since they see this company as a $250 billion company, they don't understand two things. One, it's going to grow, and it's going to grow very fast compared to its size. Secondly, it has one of the best yields in the stock market at over 6%. So, Rory, for retirees, you got a company that's not only yielding 6%, but as inflation rises in the next few years, AT&T will be able to increase its dividend at a faster rate than inflation. So you're going to beat inflation with a company that grows faster than inflation. So this is the second company that I really, so it's very important because what retirees often do is they go with high yield companies like MLPs or REITs. Now MLPs and REITs, they might yield like 13 or 14%, but they can raise their dividends in a high inflationary environment. And therefore, you might see their dividends stay at 14%, but the stock price itself will go down about 20, 30%. So you might be making a lot of money on the dividend yield, but your overall equity is losing out. Now, when you have a company that raises its dividend and also grows, that is the formula to thrive throughout a sideways market or a bear market, which I think we can talk about after we discuss this. But this is something that will definitely be happening in the next few years. The bull market doesn't have 5 to 6 more years into it. It's in his last innings. So I think these are two companies that are phenomenal for long-term investments. And I'll give you a third one, which I really I'm buying personally. It's the best way to put it. So it's called Cardinal Health. It's one of the big 3 drug distributors.
Yep.
And the stock has absolutely cratered in the last 2 years, which is something that I love to see, because it's a bargain opportunity, because you're talking about one of the best companies in America, very unknown, yet this company has raised its dividend every year for over 25 years consecutively. So it makes it one of only 52 companies that are deemed dividend aristocrats. And And what I love about this company, first of all, is its products serve more than 4,000 hospitals, and that is very hard to compete with. If you're a new entrant into the drug distribution business, very hard to build relationships with 4,000 hospitals. As you know,
Yeah.
you know, Bill Gates is the second wealthiest person on the planet, and his entire wealth relies on what's called high switching costs. Basically, making making it very hard for the customer to switch over from Microsoft Office or from Windows is what makes Microsoft so valuable. You just can't switch over to other software that easily because other people don't use it. And Cardinal Health has the same sort of competitive edge around it. It's suffered very bad years because of the opioids crisis that has put a lot of bad publicity over the entire drug distribution business, though Cardinal Health itself doesn't have anything to do with that. Now, with regards to Cardinal Health, if you go to Wealth Research Group, to the website, on the top menu, you'll see wealth stocks, the left menu on the top, and you can download a full report on that. And we'll have two new full reports, one on Starbucks and one on
AT&T.
Exactly, on the website in the next few days, and obviously in the newsletter as well. But like I said, this is a tradition that we're starting every 2 months. We're telling everybody exactly what's going on in my personal portfolio. Now, with regards to small cap opportunities, I really think that the cannabis sector is a tremendous opportunity, especially with the massacre it's going through in the last few days, which is creating a bargain opportunity for investors that understand that, hey, we still have it federally legalized in the U.S. Half of the states in the U.S. haven't legalized fully themselves. The entire world is open to legalization right now, and it hasn't happened yet. This has been a euphoric September. And we covered in the newsletter, we covered two companies. One of them has gone up 50%. The other one has gone up 525% in 1 month.
Wow.
So it was euphoria in September. It is the absolute opposite right now. And so if you cashed up and you're ready to go, there are opportunities out there. If you want me to mention two companies, I love a company that is shying away from the North American market. They haven't seen a way to penetrate that market, and so very wisely they've gone to frontier markets that other companies haven't gone to, and so they're being pioneers. I love they have a presence in Greece, in Denmark. They just announced a presence in Poland, in South Africa, and this is a company that we're watching very closely. If you go to wealthresearchgroup.com/world, so WORLD, you'll find a full report on a company called ICC International Cannabis Corp, which is a company that has operations in these frontier markets, and it's first. So, Roy, just get this. They have the only medical license to cultivate cannabis, produce it, and export it in the entire country of Greece. Greece is an EU member, so they can directly export to every EU member country. So just imagine that they're first. We talked about competitive advantages, economics of scale. So buying in bulk, buying in volume, like Cardinal Health does, or like Amazon does, it keeps your costs lower, like Walmart does, right? Being first is something that's unique, and only one company can ever do it, right? So they're first in Greece. They have one of the only 12 medical licenses in Denmark, and they're doing great things. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity to look at, and you can access my full research on it at wealthresearchgroup.com/world. A second company that I think is run by a young Warren Buffett, a person that I really appreciate. His name is Robert, and the company's name is C21 Investments. And what it does in the U.S. is absolutely on the border of miraculous. And I think it has a very bright future. C21 Investments. If you go to wealthresearchgroup.com/C, the letter C, C21, the numbers 21, so C21, you'll find a full report on this. This company has a foothold in many of the key states in the US, but the model is the Berkshire model. It's a holding company that acquires companies strategically to create a situation where there's a value added at the entire length of the chain. And this company has done this brilliantly. There's no other company like it in the US right now. I can tell you that, bar none.
I like it. I like that last one. That C21. That sounds like a great model. And Cardinal Health, I worked for that company for a number of years,
That's
actually,
interesting.
and was part of a division that was on the flip side of what you were talking about as far as the distribution. I was actually on the return side. So when the medications and the instruments would go expired, they have to be returned and accounted for. So I was on that
Interesting.
team, and it was that build out of that model. We were, when I left, it's been 10 years, 12 years. Yeah, it's been about 12 or 14 years ago. They were working with 67 different small pharmaceutical organizations, and they were handling all of their returns for them, including narcotics, which is a completely different animal altogether as far as when you start getting into Schedule 2s and Schedule 3 drugs, then they have to have their own, everything changes. So,
Sure.
but it's a great company. I can attest to that from being on the inside, and I was an employee for them,
Well,
and
that's interesting. I didn't
it's a
even know
great
that.
company. No, you didn't. um, and ICC, I just interviewed Lucas Birdsall of ICC International Cannabis, and their
Okay.
model. I really like what they're doing a lot, and I think that, and I have to echo what you're saying, Lior, as far as them being out on the quote frontier markets, in Europe and Africa and South America. And I asked him about Australia, and if you go back and listen to the interview, which I would encourage everybody to do, then they're looking at Australia. They're not in there yet, but he was kind of giving us a glimpse of future growth. Really cool company. Really like them a lot. I was very surprised, I have to tell you, at Starbucks and AT&T being in your top 5 right now. So I was not expecting that at all. So
Well,
I find
being
it very
contrarian is
interesting.
important. I'll tell you what about ICC before we move on.
Okay.
One of the things that's very important right now for cannabis companies is to establish long-term relationships with the pharmacies. So, if you can be first to establish exclusive rights with pharmacies in a given country that you can distribute to them, distribute products to them, and you sign a multi-year agreement, that is a great advantage to have. I can tell you that they've done so with one of their holdings is called Global Marathon, and they
Yep.
have an exclusive agreement with Cosmos Holdings, which is a pharmaceutical or a drug distribution company that distributes to 35,000 pharmacies throughout the EU bloc.
Wow.
You're aware that I was born in Israel, right?
Yes.
So our country was formed in 1948. When the country was established, there was little in the way of infrastructure, roads, etc. here from the British colonialized days, or they call it the British Mandate. But anyways, the people that came here that settled first, the Israelis of 1948 to 1952, 1954, these were the people that signed exclusive rights for importing cars, because there's no Israeli car manufacturers. Everything is imported. All the cars are imported into Israel. There's no factories here, etc. So these importers that signed exclusive rights back then, like 70 years ago, we're talking way back in the day, that signs exclusive rights with car manufacturers, they're all billionaires. all of the car importers into Israel have become billionaires. So being first in establishing that trade route is monumental to success in any import business, and especially when you market products to pharmacies, because once a client or a customer goes in and picks a product off the shelves, we're talking medical cannabis, of course,
Right.
And wants more, then you can't just switch the display on your shelf. So that is an important advantage to have, being first when you come to a new country and make these establishments. So yeah, that
Yeah.
and obviously that is one of the reasons why I love AT&T, because think about, Warren Buffett post 2008 made a huge investment into Santa Fe Burlington, the railway company, and one of the reasons that he bought the train company is because you can't just build new railways anywhere
Right.
that you want, and it's very hard to compete with an existing railway company because there are only a few of them. So you can't just you say, okay, I want to move into the freight business, and then the government will immediately give you land to do so. So in the same way that he loves this, I love AT&T, because you can't just build all this infrastructure, the antennas and everything that they have in place, all these government contracts that the government doesn't even allow companies to bid at. So AT&T is part of a very small group that can even bid in these huge contracts that the government offers. So this is one of the reasons that I love a very durable competitive advantage. I don't like companies that a new entrant can just easily make them evaporate and not relevant, like Facebook did to MySpace, etc.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a great example, because Facebook totally annihilated MySpace, and I was on both at the very beginning, and then I just abandoned MySpace completely, just like everybody
Well,
else.
and obviously we know the most quoted CEO of the day is the Blockbuster CEO in 2006, I believe, or 2008, when he says, What is Netflix?"
The people that put him out of business. that's
Exactly.
that's what Netflix is. Well,
And they even approached him. They even approached him at the year 2000. They say, "Buy us out." He said, "I have 3,400 locations, and you're a little streaming company. I don't see any need to buy you out."
yeah. Well, good luck with
So,
that.
and that's part of what we discussed, the demographics change between the millennials and and the baby boomers. Not many people understand this, but the baby boomers have been eclipsed in terms of size and numbers by the millennials. There are more millennials than baby boomers, and this is gonna even grow this disparity between the two.
Yeah, I want to get into that in just a minute, but I want to kind of change gears. That concludes part one of this in-depth conversation with Lior Gantz. And if you'll click the screen right there where you can see the image, it'll take you right to part two. And thank you so much.